Thank you for joining us today. Our topic, the digitalization era, how to not to neglect the human element. So we have such an esteemed panel with us today, and we're going to ask them all to look into their crystal ball to give us some insights as to what's happening inside of their operations and give us further insights as to how we can keep this digitalization trend more human. So to start us off, what has been your major insights and takeaway from this COVID period, and what are changes that you will possibly implement based on what your organization has gone through? So let's take the first stab at that. Mr. Nagri, can you give us your insights on that?
Ron, thank you so much for setting the context to the discussion, and warm welcome to all my colleagues on the panel. I'm heartened to hear. Last 1 year, most of the professional gatherings that I have been a part of have really been talking about how COVID has enabled the digital side of working, and how technology and virtual working has taken a leap forward. And I don't disagree with any of that. But I think all conversations in silo around how technology has played a major part in enabling our working environment post-COVID, I think is one big silo. If you really skim the surface, the biggest learning for me through this entire period of last 1 year has been the recognition of human connect and human empathy, which has come to the forefront. I think we've all gone through a lot, emotionally, physically, mentally, everything. And the only thing that has held us together is human resilience. I today have my colleagues who are slowly sort of getting back to office for meetings, etc. They literally come and hug each other as if they are long lost brothers and sisters who haven't met each other for several years. And that really tells us about the power of connections, the power of people getting together. And I think it's this resilience and this faith in our mutual connect, in the power of compassion that held us together in the last 1 year. To my mind, I think it's the recognition of the criticality of this human connect, the need for maintaining this human connect, and then enabling our organizations to recognize that this is the most important thing. COVID is just a blip, in a much larger time span. Many more challenges similar to COVID and different from COVID will come. But I think COVID has been a reminder that human compassion, human connect, and the need for organizations to invest in this is the most important criteria. And I think the organizations that have done this well, the organizations that have done this with the purpose of sincerity, I think they have come out a lot stronger.
Yeah, someone mentioned to me the other day, they said, you never let a crisis go to waste. What did you learn from it, and what can you extract and take forward? So thank you very much for that insight. because the empathetic side is going to be the key driver moving forward. Mr. Cochran, give us your insights from your side. And because you're in the hospitality business, your industry has been disrupted somewhat. So I'm sure you would have some insights as to what would be key from the human side.
Yeah, that may be the understatement of the year, Ron. Disrupted somewhat. We've been decimated by this crisis. You know, it attacks the very have confidence to travel and be free to congregate and get together, and both of those things have been outlawed effectively. So it's been particularly hard for our industry. I think definitely what we've learned is that the technology works, and it has been possible to run our company quite efficiently for 12 months now with people totally remote working above hotel level. Obviously in the hotels, that's not possible. And I represent quite a traditional industry, right? One of the oldest in the world, and it's very people focused. And so we learned that it works. If you told me a year ago that we would be signing employment agreements and official documents without anybody signing the actual paper, it would all be e-signatures and that would be acceptable, and we would have digital HR files. And, you know, I work in the Middle East. We like our paper over here traditionally. And so it's proved that that is possible. And so will we ever go back to insisting on original contract copies? I doubt it, actually. And I hope that we can throw away and save the storage space that all those documents have been taking up for many years that nobody ever looks at. So that's on the positive side, I guess. What else it has shown us is that we absolutely would not want to implement a consistent remote working policy in our company. Whilst it's possible, and you can argue that it's in some way efficient, it's a culture killer. The culture of a company, when the people don't get to be together and you don't have those ad hoc conversations of people who have no real reason to talk to each other but might meet in the corridors or in the cafeteria or whatever. Not having that is awful. And so for us in particular, when it's such a human and people focused industry, having to have a reason to call somebody on Teams or Zoom in order to ask something, it has been very, very difficult. And so we're desperate to get back to the office. I'm happy to say I'm speaking to you from our office today, and slowly but surely we're coming back. But those incidental conversations and the ability for people to feel connected to the business, connected to their colleagues, and you know, feeling part of the company culture is so important. And I can only imagine how difficult it would have been for a new employee to join a company during these COVID times. Like, what is the onboarding experience, and how do you get to know your colleagues over a Zoom call? I mean, I'm not saying it's not technically possible. It is technically possible, but is it optimal? I would say definitely not. So that's what we've learned.
Mm-hmm. So the impossible becomes possible, and really making the human connection. Someone reached out to me the other day, a client, and said, you know what I would really love, Ron, is to sit down and have a cup of coffee the way that we used to. And I think the theme of what you both are saying is coming through. Ms. Mitra, can you give us your insights? You have to unmute.
Yeah, so I did hear what Craig and Chidhanu talked about, and they completely resonate with what is happening at our end. And you know, I probably want to take a step back on this and look at two things that I think all of us, especially in HR, are quite concerned about, or were concerned about, continue to be. One is in terms of how engaged are our employees, you know, when they're working from home, working remotely, etc. I think engagement is a concern. And the second concern, looking at COVID-19, would be well-being. And each of our organizations, again, are probably working around it. Interestingly, both these two are connected to each other. If you look at it historically, engaged employees are more productive, less burnout, and they do contribute. Whereas on the other side, you know, employees who are, you know, who are well are able to contribute more and gain productivity. What we've seen this time around, at least if you look at 2020, is somewhere there is a divergence between the two, meaning engagement levels have remained quite the same, if not increased in some parts, some organizations. whereas well-being, or the thought of whether you are stressed or not, has sort of taken a dip and a dive.
Yeah.
And I think as an organization, a lot of effort goes in terms of putting that back on track. And a lot
Mhm.
of our effort, whether it's through employee assistance programs or through skilling up our leaders or through engaging conversations using the digital media, has been and will continue to be a focus for sure. And therefore, it is supremely important to ensure that this entire change that has happened in 2020 due to the COVID-19, somehow we are able to manage and continue with the positive gains that we've made, and continue with them and maybe even accelerate them as we get into 2021, which is probably the year of COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah.
If that the other one was COVID-19. So yeah, it has been quite a journey.
Yeah, you mentioned something unique. Not that the others didn't cover it, but the leader's impact in making sure wellness and all of these things bubble to the top. Because there was an article the other week, a couple of weeks ago maybe, the head of KPMG in the UK was relieved of his duties because he was showing no empathy towards people and telling people to basically get over it. It is what it is, kind of thing. So that was a very important point. So our the same question goes to Mr. Karana. What are your thoughts on the question? Major insights and takeaways from COVID.
Wow. What do I add, Ron? I think everyone has covered almost everything, whatever I've been going through. But um, we are a different organization. In the entire COVID scenario as well, we were hiring because our business is such that we saw a huge jump in the first 4 to 5 months of last financial year. So we were hiring, and as Craig rightly said, digital hiring, digital interviewing, digital onboarding, filling up the forms. Again, being in India, we need that paper files, HR files, and now getting back to the uh, automation of files and e-signatures. I don't remember how many papers I have signed, e-signatures. Forget about the other people who have joined us. So it's a learning. It's indeed a learning. We had been trying, we had been talking about work from home scenarios in our sales organization from very long time, but because of some of the other, because by all God's grace, we were doing pretty well within office. We did not pay that much attention to that, or we did not go that full throttle into work from home. But COVID overnight has actually pushed us to work from home scenario. And again, excellent work done by the IT team over here. In about 3 days' time, my entire workforce of close to about 10,000 people was ready for work from home.
Mm.
Yeah. So our sales didn't get affected even a single day. That's again a learning how to really take care of sales when it is supposed to dip, but you don't want that to dip.
Yeah.
That's one. Obviously, moving on to that human touch, as Madhumita said, that engagement part. How engaged is the team now? Because logging in from home, giving that sales pitch, it's doing a monotonous job sitting in your one room. Here you meet colleagues, you talk to them, you laugh with them, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, chat with them. There is no one. Yeah. So that engagement part really.
Just you and the walls.
Exactly, the four walls. So that was a challenge for us, and we really came across innovative ideas of how to keep people engaged. The virtual R&Rs, the virtual town halls. We even prepared a kind of a virtual, you can say, cartoon of a person coming and receiving the R&R award or a certificate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that's how we ran those things. The last 1 year had been full of learning.
Mm. Cool. I talked with a CEO a couple of months back, CEO of a major hospital here in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and he told me that he said basically every day I'm taking notes. I have a binder this thick on things that I'm observing around. So my thought was, what are you going to use that for? He says all of these are learnings, and I'm going to figure out a way. How do I implement these changes into the post-COVID world, if there is such a thing? So thank you for that insight. So our next speaker, Ms. Mukherjee, are you online now? If so, can you give us your thoughts? And the question
Yes,
was,
am I audible? Am I audible?
yes, you are. So what are the major
Visible?
insights and takeaway from what are you taking away, major insights from this period, from your organization?
So yeah, so what we did was, we are a manufacturing organization, Tata Motors. We have our plants located 7 in India and also internationally. And to produce an automotive vehicle, you'll have to go to the plant, right?
Yeah.
So what we understood is once the lockdown went off, we realized that there are certain roles which require you to go to office, and there are certain roles which don't require you to go to office regularly. So that was one learning. And actually, we sat with the leaders, all our business HR teams sat across with the leaders, and they identified the roles which require you to go to office, roles which do not require you to go to office regularly. Then once we did that study, we also did a bit of a benchmarking across the Tata Group and also outside the Tata Group, what others are doing as well. While we want to do something, we saw that basically the changes are in 3 areas. What organizations are working on. One is in terms of what are the benefits that are there you should give when people are working from home. What are the etiquettes that you need to look at when you are working from home. That was very important, etiquettes and guidelines.
Yeah.
The benefits, and also the infrastructure. What is the infrastructure that you want to do? So these 3 areas were broadly the focal points for transitioning into the work from home culture, keeping in mind the business need and what you need as a business. More important thing, as everyone else in the call said, that social capital is something very important, because at the end of the day, a lot of work gets done in organizations through the social capital. Because I know you, I have a good rapport with you, I can get done certain things. But if I'm a new employee, I don't have built that social capital, it is not possible. Today, we are eating out of the social capital we have built, right? And hence, we are able to function the way we are. Hence, it is important that we continue to leverage this and we allow people to build social capital. So what we transition into as an organization is our operations work full, all 5 days, 6 days based on the business needs. Rest of the business, units, engineering, product line, sales and marketing, corporate, everyone works 2 days everyone works 2 days. Sorry, it got. So everyone works 2 days in a week. And for the COVID period, we have made it 1 day a week. And we will permanently transition into 2 days a week. We are not going, even after COVID also, once the vaccination is over in India, we will not go back into 5 days a week. And that's a change that we have brought in. And that's the learning that COVID has brought in for us. So we not only learned from it, we have also made sure that we change ourselves.
Okay, I like that, because you're saying this is what we learned, this is what we've gone through, this is what we learned from it. Here's how we're going to change moving forward. That's kind of the same conversation I had with the CEO, was talking about what the learning was and how he was going to take it forward. So let's throw that question back out to the group, and we'll ask that question. So based on what you've gone through and what you've noticed, what is possibly going to change from your side? Have you identified some key things that you could possibly change to be more effective, or as effective as you were, say, pre-COVID? And we'll start out on the normal rotation again. Mr. Nagri, give us your thoughts on that.
Sure. I think if you would have told me and my group of leaders who actively hire about a year back that you got to take a decision about hiring a person into your team virtually.
Yeah.
I think it would have faced resistance to a level where we would have given a pass to the candidate rather than taken a hiring decision.
Yeah.
I still remember last year when in India the college hiring season was on. We had hired a bunch of very talented people from different IIMs in India, and in April my team gave me this decision of whether we should onboard them virtually or whether we should defer their date of joining. And I said, wait for a month more. I'm sure by early May, situation will be under control. Little
Yeah.
did I know that I will be in exactly the same scenario 365 days later. I think, to my mind, one of the big learnings or one of the big opportunities that have come in front of us is to practically recognize and learn that virtual working and hybrid working is possible.
Mhm.
And it can be applied to the entire life cycle of an employee working with the organization, whether it's about hiring, whether it's about onboarding, whether it's about ongoing project delivery, critical meetings, planning for future. It is possible for us to work virtually. And I think the last 1 year has deeply embedded that into our ways of working. Now I fully understand that different organizations have their different priorities and inclinations. Craig mentioned that they would like to get back to working together soon, and I think that idea resonates with me.
Yeah.
But what's equally important is we have realized that if that opportunity does not come up, we are not in a situation of crisis.
Happens
We
then.
today are a lot more sure-footed about continuing to work virtually and actually have a well-structured plan around it. Because as I said earlier, COVID is just a point in time. Tomorrow, multiple other things can happen, which may necessitate for us to have a long-term virtual or hybrid working strategy. And we today, think we are a lot more prepared for it. Now it's translating into several business decisions that we are doing. For example, our real estate expansion strategy, our strategy of whether we should continue to work out of one city or out of multiple cities, our remote working and hiring decisions. All of those are getting influenced and are getting institutionalized based on the learnings we have from COVID. I think that, to my mind, is a great opportunity, and I feel fortunate that several organizations have been able to learn and leverage those opportunities well.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, Craig.
Yeah, I think what we will do differently going forward is not go back to some of those bad habits that we had, which was making paper so important.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start keeping some of the digital storage and signing and that kind of thing. Speaking very pragmatically, I think that will stay. I think that Teams and Zoom is here to stay. We did very little of it pre-COVID, to be perfectly honest, and now it's been proven to work. So I think that regular team meetings and communication across offices and things will happen on these digital platforms, which is good. But I can also see that face-to-face meetings, when allowed, will come back, because for me, the whole point is that the technology works, but it's not as good. So it does do the job, no doubt, but it doesn't replace what we had before. It's a stopgap that can work, but it wouldn't be my preference to continue. And then at the hotel level, what I think is definitely happening is that it's shone a very bright light on how our cost structures have been in the past. And so we've been working a lot on clustering and making one role serve multiple hotels, which you can do in the support departments. You can't do that in the guest-facing departments particularly easily. But human resources, accounting, marketing, those kind of things. Traditionally, a hotel has been a very standalone business unit, having all of those functions located within its own walls. And so this has kind of forced our hand to say we need to be better at sharing across our business units. And so the economic reality forced that, but I don't think we'll ever go back, because again, we've seen that clustering is very effective, and it's working well. So I think that's also here to stay, and we're going to be a little bit more open-minded on that kind of thing.
Okay, good. Spreading the org chart somewhat. Yeah. Thank you. Mitra.
Yeah, so I think what is probably definitely going to stay back is more of hybrid working, I would call it, which would be a mix of in-person and technical or technology driven or virtual solutions. And that, I think, would be something that we would want to do across all our HR interventions, be it in the talent acquisition space, be it in talent development space, be it in leadership development, or be it in our strategy around succession planning or engagement and the other areas that we typically would work with. I think we would look at more of hybrid solutions. I completely agree with both Craig and Bhanu saying that there is something that technology can do for others. You need that people connect, that face-to-face connect. I think you can't do away with it any which way. So we'll look at hybrid solutions, and in fact, some of the currently completely technical technology solutions, we're trying to also see how would you do this in a hybrid environment. And especially important for us as an organization spread across 130 countries with employee groups who have very unique needs. So on one side, we have our colleagues at sea who are, obviously, they'll have to be there at work and in person. Whereas we also have the support functions like HR, finance, and legal and other functions where most of the colleagues are office based. And then you have the commercial teams as well. So I think hybrid work is something that will continue. And what we saw also during COVID-19, rather in 2020, is that a lot of collaboration happening through technical platforms. And I think we will continue with that because that really helped us come out with innovations and go to market at a really fast pace. So I think those are the things that will definitely continue for us. Yeah.
So that's interesting from a business side. Go to market, you said that increased as a result of this new workplace, new type workplace? You said go to market.
Yep.
Increase the efficiencies of that process.
Yes, exactly. So we also got into a much more efficient go-to-market process thanks to the innovation that happened by using technology, and how the teams came in together to come out with solutions for our clients has obviously reflected in the kind of business results that MERS has delivered this year. So yeah, that's going to be there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mr. Khurana, give us your thoughts on that.
Well, loads of learnings, Ron. I'll go with, to start with, we can actually hang out on Google Hangout. We can team up on Team, that's for sure. Yeah. And in fact, panel discussions can happen virtually. That's what we've been doing now. Having said that, a lot of things in a sales organization, which is actually direct sales, and specifically where in India, insurance and loans, you need to have a face of who you want to talk to. Where a person comes at your home, explains a plan to you, and then you buy it. That has changed. That has changed in the last 1 year, and we have seen enormous growth. People getting online. We have actually got a lot of our one particular business, we call it now unassisted. So end-to-end journey of a customer from a logging in to the website, to logging out with an approval of a loan or buying a policy happening online. Yeah. So that's one thing, again, which is a great learning for us, because as I said, we had been trying it, but we were not that sure that we'll be able to do that or not. But this pandemic has really pushed us to the corner, and we won that fight. And we have actually decided that almost like 25 to 30% of our staff will now work from home.
Wow.
Yeah, we will not call them back. They're doing well from their home. Let them do well. Yeah, keep doing that. You'll get your incentive. You'll get your salary. We'll get our cost from our real estate, as Chidbanu said. Yeah. But expansion, when we are expanding to other cities and other countries, that is where we need to really see, and as Madhumita said, hybrid. I think expansion cannot go hybrid. We need to have people there at least for the first 5-6 months to set up things. Yeah. And that is where we see that we will need a human touch. We will need all full throttle support there. And for our business as usual, it'll go on.
Okay, thank you. I had a client in Singapore, and the troubling side of it was from insurance was that the salespeople, some of them did not have technical skills. So that was something else they had to build into the technical aspect of a certain demographic. I'll just leave it like that. Was very uncomfortable with the Zooms and all these kinds of things. Whereas to the younger rep, it may have come easy in making that transition. Did you encounter that?
Not really. To be very honest, my sales staff, the average age of my sales staff is about 23 years. So they are more tech savvy than I am.
Yeah. Okay.
My average leadership age is about 35, 36 years. So again, we are in that era where if we do not know anything, our kids are there to teach us. You know what? This is how you do it.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. Mukherjee, what are your thoughts on that? What are you taking away from COVID?
I think Ron, for us, the world has changed forever, and I think we the biggest thing that we learned that digitally so many things can be done in workplace, and I think be it in the sales, be it in the service, be it in human resources, in each and every area, the digital strategy has been laid out, and I think that's a big change. That's a big learning for all of us, and and as I said, that we are moving into the hybrid work culture. We were an organization which believed in human contact, which believed in meetings where we are present in person. From there, today we do it effortlessly online. We work months together, without meeting each other. While we have opened our offices and we are meeting once a week at workplace, but we are not meeting everyone. We are not traveling as much as we used to do. So we have changed, and I think our mindsets have changed, and that is a great learning for all of us to leverage digital in a way. We have, and to be honest, we have already learned and we have taken actions. As I told you, we have closed almost 27 of our offices across the country because we realized that those offices we do not need. We can operate from some other places. So we have closed our offices. We are realigning certain infrastructure wherever we see that we are not required to be present all the time. We have also our employees, as I told you, apart from operations, we have gone into 2 days working and hybrid mode. And I think the next wave that will come is that do you need to be in the same location, or can you do the same job from 5 locations? I think that's something that will emerge. Some global organizations already have it,
Yes.
but would we get into that? I think, and that's where people today are asking, why do I have to come to Mumbai? I can do this. I can go to that office and connect virtually. So I think the world will become a very different place as we move ahead, because we have got used to something we were never used to.
Yes. And when you think of the work from anywhere, so we work from home, work from anywhere, you open up the availability of talent across the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of diverse talent also you will get into it, because those were not getting in your scope of work because they were not able to come into your scope of work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I see diversity coming in large way with this opening up of the talent broad basing.
Mm-hmm. I was in New York over the holidays and in Manhattan, and to walk down, say, 6th Avenue, which is a major business corridor, at 9:30 in the morning, and it's basically deserted. And the companies are still in business. The companies are still doing business. That means everything is going to change in some way, shape, or form. So as we're coming down to the end, I think we're coming to the end. One more question I wanted to throw out to you. What is your major takeaway from the experience you've gone through? A personal kind of experience that you've witnessed and you're taking away from this, from the personal side. Oh, and we're going to start that again with Mr. Nagri. Give us your thoughts.
Sure. I think, Ron, one of the most fundamental beliefs that got reaffirmed during COVID for me and the organization that I represent was the amount of power and impact that a manager carries. I've seen a lot of organizations that maxed out on engagement, that maxed out on fun, that tried to create many more activities for their people. And frankly, beyond a point, that just kept on adding to the fatigue. Because someone who's already spending 9 hours in front of a screen does not want to spend 30 minutes more because you're organizing an engagement activity. I think the teams that have come out most resilient, the teams that have come out most effective out of this are the ones that are led by highly empathetic and highly impactful managers. In the last 1 year, we have put a lot of focus, or rather double down our focus on leveraging our managers as the primary vehicle to keep their teams together. We have invested in building our managers' capability and telling them that you are that one person who can make a world of difference to whether your team stays resilient through the process or completely breaks down. I think that has been one big learning that got, or one big belief that got reaffirmed. The other thing that was interesting to note was several policies, processes, systems, they needed to be relooked given the times that we were in. For example, insurance policies, needed to be relooked, needed to be strengthened. We took a call sometime back within our organization that we need to completely redo our leave policy, and don't restrict leave just to physical ailment. It can be anything. It can be emotional wellness requirement. It can just be the requirement of a person to take some time off. So instead of calling it a leave policy, we now call it a wellness policy with a much broader application across the organization. Third thing, that a lot of our employees came back and said that, we have not used our annual leaves at all. So why should our annual leaves lapse? And we said, no worries, we will allow you to carry forward your annual leaves for another financial year. Now, these are just few examples, but what I'm basically saying is, as a people function, we realize that there is a need to be a lot more nimble, to keep your ears fixed onto the ground a lot more and understand what is it that your people are saying, and what is it that your people are not necessarily saying because they may be hesitant, but are feeling. And what can you quickly change so that you make the environment a little better for them? So that was the second learning. And I think the third biggest learning, which I think has been again there for a long time, I don't think it's new, is the need for us to invest in our personal health and well-being. COVID has taught us, being on a desk for 10 hours in a day, movements being restricted. I think we are a lot less, agile and fitter than what we were maybe earlier. And I think we are today learning as to how we carry a big responsibility to invest in our own health and our own well-being. And if I now extrapolate that for the entire organization, what responsibility is the organization carrying to make that investment for all their people? Both, physical health, mental health. I remember Madhumita spoke about it earlier that, they have invested in mental health, well-being, counseling of their people. And I think these are the needs of the time. These are things that need to be done a lot more, so that we realize that apart from working virtually, working digitally, working hybrid, coming out of this healthier and happier is a much bigger goal that we can accomplish together.
Yeah. Check that one off, right? Exactly. That's a very good point. Craig, give us your thoughts on that. Your major takeaway, personal takeaway.
My major takeaway was just a reaffirmation that it's much more important what you do than what you say. So saying we care about our employees is a great statement, for example. Who would disagree with that? But what do you actually do? So you say you care for your employees, but the first thing you do when there's a crisis is fire a bunch of people in a very brutal manner and make sure you don't pay them too much of a generous package because we're under financial pressure. So what you do is far more important than what you say. I think that was strongly reaffirmed to me during this crisis, and that goes for the well-being conversation, that goes for whatever it may be. And then just, I guess, more of a question than what I learned was, what is a company's responsibility for the well-being of employees? Like, who's responsible for that, for somebody's well-being? I can see that there's a movement towards the company is greatly responsible for the individuals who works their well-being. Now, I can tell you from my personal experience that I don't want the company involved in my personal well-being. Thank you very much. I'm a sovereign individual, and I don't need a company to do that for me. I have my family, I have my interests outside of work, and I actually find it kind of overstepping the mark that the company would want to offer me psychological help. It's like, if I ask for it, great, but okay. I don't need that promoted to me. And so I'm not sure I'm totally on board with the expectation that appears to be being put on corporations these days, that if somebody has burnout, that's obviously the company's responsibility. It's like, well, a divorce will do that to you too, a breakdown in the relationship with your brother will do that to you too. So I think it's too simple to say it's a company's responsibility. Anyway, just wanted to put that out there for your viewers to kind of think about.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we do spend the vast majority of our waking hours at work, so that's something.
Physically, I'm not sure about mentally. Okay, cool. Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Mitra.
So there are a couple of things which I think really are important takeaways from here. One, of course, that it is possible to have some amazing collaboration across teams and across functions. and be totally customer focused all at the same time, thanks to technology, actually, a lot of it. And also, the second thing is, if you're very clear about the purpose as an organization, if your purpose is something which is clearly defined, you can really rally the entire employees, the workforce, to deliver that. And all the successes that we are seeing, even now in various organizations, are actually as a result of maybe both or either of the two happening in those workplaces. And I hope and I wish that we continue to do that, have a very razor focus on our purpose as an organization, and also collaborate like never before. I think those were two of the biggest takeaways for me and for us as an organization.
Yeah, walk the walk, talk the talk.
Exactly.
Yeah, you did sleep it. Thank you for that. Rana.
One thing that's very important that we realized is trust. Trust in me as an employee on my employer, and again, me as an employer on my employee. As Craig said, firing quickly as when the pandemic comes or a situation like this comes, we enable that trust within our organization, within our people, that wait, we are going through a tough time, but believe you me, we trust you, you keep trust on us. That's the only thing, that's the mantra we had. In sailing through these tough times, our sail didn't dip at all. And then, we had brilliant 7-8 months. Rather, we were about 125, 130% of our targets.
Wow.
That's how. And that's only because of the trust that we had. Thank you so much. Thanks to the employees who trusted us, who made sure that we are there in the market and we excel as an organization.
Okay, cool. Wow. That's very unique to hear that story. So thank you. I think we all need to hear, as a balance that, we did well, we did okay, and people are doing okay. So thank you. Makarichi, give us your thoughts.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get your question, Ron.
I said, what is your major takeaway from all that's happened from a personal side? What is your major takeaway?
Okay. No, so I think from a personal, if you're talking from a personal point of view, I think my most important learning is travel is useless. We were wasting our time in traveling. so that is something we can do away without, so that is more on the lighter side. But I think what we understood were a couple of things. That social capital is important. It cannot be, without the, you cannot work just without talking to your, meeting your teams. You just cannot work without the, in-person interactions. So it has to be, there has to be some amount of social interaction as well. We are human beings, are social animals, and hence building the social capital is also an important ingredient in working in an organization. And I think this, the forced work from home taught us that, and that's something we learned, and hence we went into the hybrid structure. The second learning that we got is, what are the roles that, how the roles are, how each role, what all each role requires, the tools, the, the materials, and what the role does. I think we learned a bit more on that, which role requires you to be where in terms of office, manufacturing. So I think that's something we also learned, that how the roles are defined, how the roles are actually needing the social capital or needing to be in the workplace. Apart from that, I think a big learning for us is, as I told you, the digital wave, which is very, very important. We understood that what all things can be done digitally. So we learned about it. And not most importantly, I think we also learned that we can be much more flexible on infrastructure than we have been. So that was also a learning for us, that infrastructure is not as important as we thought it used to be. Fifth is, I think we are still learning and we are still thinking about it, that how do you build the cultural aspects in this changing world and continue with the same without meeting the way you were meeting, how you can continue to build the cultural imperatives the way you were building. I think time will tell us, time will teach us. But I think that is something we will eventually learn a bit more as we go. We are still in the early days of moving into the hybrid. We are still in the early days of getting into digital. But I think the cultural imperatives also will play a role as we shape up the future.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Panelists, thank you so much. Our time is coming up to an end. I think we provided some very good insight for the audience to take a look at digital transformation, but keeping the human element, front and center. So thank you so much. And I'll turn it back over to the host.